Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and today I have a beautiful maple leaf. I love picking up autumn leaves when I go for a walk and I thought this was a very gorgeous leaf. I am using it as a stencil to trace it on my paper. It makes a perfect still life. Once you trace your leaf, then you want to wet that whole area with some water and take your time on this step so that your paper is nice and wet and we have a lot of time to build up our colors. Once your paper is nice and wet, we're going to start off with our lightest colors, and in this leaf I see a yellowish green color. I'm using green gold or leaf green, along with some warmer yellows like my ISO Yellow Deep. And for the reds, I'm using quinacridone Scarlet or quinacridone Red. I also am using quinacridone Sienna for my oranges. So you can see that my leaf is very nicely saturated, and I just keep building up my colors, coming in with some stronger reds. Tilting your paper does help the watercolors flow and mingle together. Now that I got that tip of the leaf done, I'm adding in my oranges and building up those colors. I don't want to completely cover up the yellow because there are some more yellowy areas that do show through on the leaf. And when you do pick up leaves for inspiration, you probably know that the leaves that fall that are really nice will be dried up in a couple of hours. So my suggestion is to paint with them right away before they have a chance to dry up. Sometimes I find beautiful leaves and my day gets away from me, and then they're too dried up for me to use as a subject matter. So notice that I am dotting in the colors using your brush and just tapping it in. You will get some interesting textures. As your paper starts to dry, you want to use less water on your brush, otherwise you'll create a bloom. So my paper is starting to dry. You can see it's not as shiny, and I'm increasing the saturation of the paint. Basically, it's looking a lot brighter because number one, my paper is drying, and number two, I'm not using as much water with the paint. So it's a thicker consistency. As your paper dries, you want to use a thicker consistency, and you always want to dab your brush on a piece of paper towel first, just to make sure it's dry enough so you don't create a bloom, unless you want your leaves to have blooms as a watercolor effect and as a style. You can have it full of blooms. I think that would also be very pretty. But in this instance, I was going for realism, and I'm just trying to get it as close to the leaf as I can. I'm really liking the colors. I think I have quite a bit of saturation here. There's a few areas of the leaf that do have some dark brown spots on it, and some of the tips are brown. And so I'm going to add those in right now. So my consistency is quite thick here, and I'm just dabbing in those little areas. There's a couple of dark spots on the center part of the leaf, so I'm putting those in. And then the fun part of creating what I like to call a controlled bloom. So we're making the veins of the leaf. I'm using the same yellow undertones, and I have a damp loaded brush with the yellow. And because it's still damp, the yellow is pushing out those other pigments out of the way so that you could actually see the veins that I'm making. in this leaf. Each time you go to make a vein, you're gonna wipe off your script liner brush on a piece of paper towel so that it's not too wet. So here's the leaf, here's the final project. I think it's a pretty good representation. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Happy hunting for a perfect autumn leaf when you go for a walk, and I will see you guys next week.